Why, hello there. My name is Mountain, and today I'd like to talk to you about this. And what is this, you might ask? Well, this, my friends, is the Tortuga Daily Carry Pro 25 liters. Now, as the name suggests, this is a smaller version of the famous travel bags manufactured by Tortuga, a US-based bag company known primarily for, well, their large travel bags and related accessories. On the product page, it's described as, quote, an EDC bag for travelers, and it is ostensibly positioned as a maximum personal item size carry-on bag that can flex well into both EDC and work use. And in today's review, I'll be talking about those different use cases and also examining its use as sort of like a dedicated one bag travel bag. Now, its strengths include that it is an excellent personal item or small one bag travel bag. Tons of capacity, just tons. Let me show you. I've got this thing packed out just how I had it on a recent trip that I came back from. Tons of capacity. This is just one of the compartments. I got my whole load out of there, and I got a bunch of other stuff everywhere else on here. Lots of like flexible compartments that can easily accommodate a wide variety of travel styles, and really nice travel touches. Like you've got like the side handles and luggage pass-throughs and dual water bottle pockets and all the things. Pockets on pockets and pockets is good. Excellent dimensions and capacity to size weight ratio means that this bag is an excellent, in my opinion, Goldilocks bag, which is my name for a one bag travel bag. You can get your stuff from point A to point B, but also capably serve as an EDC bag at that destination. So you're not like having to carry like one of those flimsy packable bags or like having to carry two bags, blah, blah, blah. Pretty good for that. Solid materials, execution coupled with pretty pleasant load carriage and like very flexible pocketing, general use pocketing means that I think that this is a comfortable bag that you can carry around for extended periods of time. And it also handles overpacking really well. So overall, it's quite flexible and like I said, easy to carry around for a long time. Now, there are some things you need to consider. This is termed the Daily Carry Pro, and while it certainly is, as I said, something that you can use as an EDC bag, in practice, it's quite large relative to other EDC daily carry bags, particularly in the Z-axis for like a quote-unquote nominal 25-liter bag. Like there's a lot of stuff that you could pack in this, and it kind of just pushes this bag out. It looks like a big, like turtle shell, chonky turtle shell thing on your back. And those of you with smaller frames, or those of you looking for primarily like an EDC Pro bag rather than like a travel bag that flexes into EDC Pro use, you're going to find yourself overwhelmed by this bag. It's going to be hard for you to find a way of filling out this main compartment in the normal EDC use. Like when you're traveling, you can put all the stuff I just showed you inside of there, obviously. But when you're, like in EDC land, like you're going to be like, what do I do with all this empty space there? And then also, well, it has a lot of like just general use pockets everywhere on here. Here's some of those examples there, plus this big, front area, and there's all the same things in the other compartments as well. In EDC use, like I think that's great for travel use, but in EDC use, you may find yourself wishing for like more like dedicated specific, admin pockets or, like a pencil pocket or something like that. Tortuga's philosophy is very much like general pocketing that doesn't proscribe a certain kind of use case. And that's great for travel. But again, in EDC use, sometimes you're going to find this bag doesn't compare as well as like, for example, an airbag. It has like a bunch of admin panels or whatever. Now, the overview of this bag: one size, 25 liters, one color, black, one material weight, EcoPack, EPX 200 waterproof sailcloth, one price, $250 over on tortugabackpacks.com. And this is obviously the black 25 liter in EcoPack. Now, as a disclaimer, I've been using this as my main EDC one bag travel / Goldilocks bag for about a month or so at this point here. I'd like to thank Tortuga for sending this over for review. Even though they sent this over, you guys know the deal, like they don't get any opinion, any input into this video. They don't know when it's going live. All opinions are my own. And I have this bag packed out just how I had it, how I just came back from a trip. That it's a combination of like some travel stuff, some work stuff, and my EDC stuff all in here. So you're gonna see the real loadout that I'm carrying in there. So let's talk about the materials and design on this bag. Solid high-end materials at EcoPack EPX 200 waterproof sailcloth, YKK zippers. You got Woojing buckles on the plastic hardware. You got this really nice kind of like cloth fabric, air mesh on the back and the shoulder straps or whatever. It's got very good water resistance. It's not waterproof, but because the seams aren't taped, but it has pretty good water resistance. I would say certainly superior to many kind of like nylon bags out there, and probably roughly comparable to your X-Pack, which is obviously the same kind of general category of bag. Whatever, your ultras and all that. But I like this bag a lot in terms of its water resistance and materials. Dimensions: maximum personal size item carry-on compliant for most airlines, at least your non-ultra low cost carrier ones. This is 45 by 19 by 30 in the breadth dimension there. Centimeters, or for those of you, They use imperial units, 18 by 12 by 7.5 inches. Weight 1.2 kilograms, but that actually feels quite light. I mean, it's not bad actually. And it feels much lighter than I would expect for a bag of this size. This is nominally 25 liters, but if you look at it, it's a chunky boy. Like you can tell this is much larger than many other nominally 25 liter rated EDC bags. I think some of the other review channels out there, they'll measure with peanuts or whatever. There's no one standard, but what I will say is this is, definitely larger than many other bags in the same category. And the size to weight ratio, I think capacity to weight, capacity to size ratio is pretty good. This should fit under most seats, but look at, like I said, I got this thing packed out just how I use it for, travel. Like you can see, you can fill it up quite a bit. This isn't going to fit under every seat if it's fully packed out like this. It will fit in just about any overhead bin you can imagine. It fits, in many places, not like one of the most, gigantic, 40 liter or whatever bags. It's still roughly personal item size rather than max carry-on size. But, if you got one of those smaller seats, if you got one of those seats with the avionics box in front of it or whatever, you won't be able to get this fully in there if it's packed out, but it's, still overall a pretty good size for like most places. So in terms of the design of this, right, it's square, obviously, the infamous rectangular prism, but you've got some nice kind of rounding and patterning here that kind of gives it some, curvature, kind of softens off some of those edges. You can see you've got some interesting shaping going on with like how like the zipper line is patterned around like the main compartment. And then on the back, you've got this, as I mentioned, this really nice kind of organic, well, it's not organic feeling, but kind of a softer, slightly fuzzy feeling, air mesh thing going on in the back. And I think those details plus like the like the stretchy elastic side pockets help soften up some of like the more like art cold high-tech looking angles and features of the bag. So overall, it's definitely not a minimalist looking bag. There's a lot of stuff going on here, guys, just tons of pockets and compartments and the things, but it is, I think, a low-key, at a distance, somewhat understated. If you just kind of glance at it, it looks just like a blacked out, simple, small bag. When you get up close, there's a lot of like interesting stuff going on, the materials, the patterning, the zippers, the hardware, and all that. So for me, that's a really nice combination in terms of design, though obviously design is subjective here. It stands up on its own, which I really love in a travel bag. You could put it down, in front of you when you're checking at the airline counter or in the seat next to you or something like that. It's just really easy to kind of like access, get your laptop, in and out of it. It stands up like that. And it tends to do that even when it's not fully packed out, which is always good. Tortuga, as I mentioned, has this philosophy of like just general use pocketing. So a big dump pocket at the top, big, main front compartment with some pocketing inside of here. And then inside of that main compartment also, you have like a big, just general pocket. So I think that's kind of a nice and interesting philosophy. And it's certainly one that I think will resonate with a lot of you, though those of you, like I said, that like a pocket for everything may not like that as much there. Now, the only maybe point I would mention when it comes to the design is you can see it becomes really chunky when overpacked, and it just becomes really thick. And it's like this big turtle box on or turtle shell on your bag. It kind of just pulls against, the center of gravity kind of pushes out, and it kind of pulls against your shoulders. And because it is fairly short, compared to like one of those big 40 liter maxed out, one bag travel bags, that really does increase the amount of torque and density because you can pack it out quite well. As I mentioned, it's one of its strengths, like pulling at you. So it's just something to maybe keep in mind. It just, can overwhelm those of you with smaller frames. And in an EDC context, when you don't need all this capacity, sometimes it just feels a little bit hard to like use that effectively. You've got just a lot of empty space rattling around. So next, let's talk about this top kind of quick access front dump pocket. Switching to the overhead cam here, it opens up here with a single YKK water resistant zipper, opens up nice and wide. These kind of top mounted dump pockets or quick access pockets have become quite common on travel bags and pro, quote unquote, pro EDC bags in recent years. Opens up, you can see way inside of there, really good visibility. On their product page, they describe this as a quick access pocket as opposed to more of a front dump pocket. It can serve both purposes really well. And this really is the only real quick access pocket on this bag, though we'll talk about the downsides of that in a second. It's fairly flat. If we look at it in the kind of dimension here, like it extends down to around right, and if we look at it in the profile, it extends down to around right here. And it's not like super like independently dimensioned, but it does have some, as you can see, with sort of like this subtle patterning here. So fairly flat, but it can carry a decent amount of stuff in here. And it goes down, like around to like right here. So about the top 1/3 of the bag there. You will struggle to get a pair of like folded over the head earphones like the Sony's or like B&O H95I's or whatever in there. It's not quite tall enough for that, but you can fit a lot of like smaller items inside of here. The only organization you have in there is this keychain here with a nice little metallic key leash on there, just useful for helping you fish it out. You're gonna have to unclip it in order to open your door or whatever. And then inside of here, I just show some other stuff that I usually carry here: some eye drops, hand sanitizer, chapstick, comb, and I think that's it for inside of here. But I'll often find myself like, these things are super handy for like throwing in receipts or whatever you might do to add some gum, medicine, or whatever that you need quick access to when you're on the go. Nice white contrast ripstop, which makes it easy to see what you have in there. A couple of things that I didn't like about this though is because it's front mounted and it's ostensibly a quick access pocket, like I feel like it's a little bit less secure than I would have preferred. I like it when the quick access pockets are mounted up at the top towards the rear of the bag, because it's a lot more secure, in my opinion anyway. And so, for example, I wouldn't put like my phone, which is something I would normally put inside of here if I need to, or like not a wallet, but like something, things like that. I mean, some people put their wallets inside of there. I wouldn't put it on here because it's just such a front mounted exposed area. And because the bag can be quite thick and not ponderous, but there's a lot of weight that you can put inside there, you're less sensitive to feel somebody like unzipping this. Like, it does have a little bit of a stick at the beginning because there's some curvature on either end of the zipper track. Like, you have to kind of curve up here and then curve around there. But like if you got it kind of like here, it's really easy to open it without you noticing. So that's not something that I would have loved to see inside of there. And other than that though, I really like this pocket overall. I think it's a great example of how to do that. Let's talk about external pocketing on this bag. 2 stretch water bottle pockets, 1 on each side. Very simple design, stretchy mesh, no fancy pleats or body fabric. It's just 2 nice, well-built, very robust, solid stretch mesh there. Black on black, relatively inconspicuous, so you're not really going to notice it that much when it's not in use, although obviously it is a different material and kind of contrast to the body fabric here. Even taller water bottles are going to fit inside of here. Here I have a mere 946 milliliters, so almost a full liter water bottle. That's really easy to just drop this inside of here. You can see it fits in all the way up to here. It's quite secure. It's not going to come out even if you got it kind of knocked over on the side or whatever. And the stretch mesh does a pretty good job of letting it expand out, where you obviously, inevitably, because physics are what they are, have a little bit of internal intrusion, but I generally found that these did a good job of expanding outwards, which I like. There's no like lash point or clip or anything on there, so if you're trying to carry like something taller like an umbrella or like a tripod or whatever, there's nowhere to like really kind of stabilize it up top with a strap or something like that. But like I said, they are pretty deep, so for even like a folding umbrella is going to be able to go deeply inside of there and be decently well retained. Okay, so next let's talk about this front zipper pocket here on the side. You got a single zipper pocket, runs up and down the main front of the compartment of the front panel of the bag, about from here to about right here. So not fully the entire width of it. It's covered with this little flap of fabric. Opening is pretty large, and with the flex of the materials, even when this bag is fully packed out, you can see decently inside of there. Let me flip it to the overhead cam so you can see what it looks like when you kind of got the bag on the side. You can get in there, like again, this is fully packed out here. Same contrast white ripstop nylon in the interior here. No internal organization. It really is just this big pocket in there, big dump pocket, and it works really well. They say like for like a Kindle or a tablet or something like that, you can just throw in there. It is appropriately sized, and it's a little bit off of the bottom here, so it won't like damage if you drop it on there. But for me, I usually carry here, for example, my plotter, ring Ticho system, and then like a toothbrush that I stole from an airplane, in case I need to like brush my teeth on the go or something like that. Just really easy. It's quite, like with all of the other compartments, as you'll see, like it's just really easy to kind of stuff inside of there. Now, it occupies, like I said, about 80% of the front panel space, but a little bit off the top and off the bottom. Obviously at the top you have the front quick access pocket here. You can fit like a pair of folded over the ear headphones in here. They'll puff out a little bit, but you can fit them inside of there. Like I said, tablet, Kindle, book, stuff like that. Thicker things like a sweater or like an outer layer, you're probably not going to be able to fit inside of here. I think it's just going to be a little bit too tight, and the opening is just not going to be quite wide enough for you to get that in there. So next, let's talk about the rear laptop compartment. And now it opens up. I'm going to switch to the overhead view here. It opens up via these dual locking YKK water resistant zippers here. Opens up to about 1/4 of the height of like the total height of the bag. And then kind of opening it up reveals like this nice big kind of laptop area. Felt kind of, or fuzzy kind of like non-scratch fabric here for the laptop, and the device pocket you've got here, the mesh, and then a little bit further down you got the same ripstop contrast nylon that we see in other parts of the bag on the interior. Now this back part, suspended off the bottom, false bottom, M4 14-inch MacBook Pro here, but this will hold up to a 16-inch MacBook Pro in this area. Now anything larger than that though, like, so for example, my 16-inch Razer Blade gaming laptop is pretty svelte by like gaming laptop standards, but it just barely fits both in the depth and the height dimension. Anything larger or chunkier than that, you're really not going to get inside of here. It doesn't, you know, it's pretty maxed out in that. In front of there, you have this, and this part is padded, and then in front of here, you have this padded tablet compartment. They say it'll hold up to a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. This is an 11-inch iPad Pro with a type cover. Because you have that fuzzy lining in there, I find anything with like a slightly tacky coating like this keyboard type cover does have a bit of friction to get in and out. If you had like a 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the type cover, you're gonna struggle. You can get it in there, but it's gonna be a little bit tight. This is a little bit tighter than I would have liked personally. I wish it had just a little bit more give on there. Now in front of that, you have this area. It gets a little bit tight, but you have this big area, big general flat area, goes all the way down to the bottom. Inside of here, I have, well, looks like business papers, man. You put whatever else you want inside of there. It's not like super like spacious in the depth dimension, but it is quite tall. It goes down the whole height of the bag. And up at the top here, we have this mesh compartment with a single zipper. It's kind of cloth mesh. And then inside of here, now obviously I think this is designed to hold like a MacBook charger and like maybe a mouse. I will say if you have like a larger charger, if you have like one of those Windows chargers, like a big brick, it's not going to fit in here. It's just too svelte. It doesn't have enough like give in there. But a laptop, like a MacBook USB-C charger or anything like that, one of those Anchor ones, and a mouse, something like that will fit inside of here. I don't use it for that tech organization, especially in the travel use case, because I usually carry a tech kit. But inside here, I just have my Evergoods wallet, and I have this Rofmia coin pouch here. I put my wallet and my coin pouch inside of here because it is still quite accessible, especially when you just zip. You can zip it up at the top, and you can still kind of get inside of there. But it's still behind two layers of zippers, so it's a little bit more secure, and it's right up against my back there. But you can fit like whatever you want inside of there. There's obviously like more space, and loading it up as you might expect is fairly like straightforward. You can just drop your stuff inside of there. Like I said, there's a bit of friction when you want to get this thing inside of there because of the fuzziness of the fabric, but overall I think it's quite competent as a back laptop pocket in there. So next, let's talk about the front compartment here. Like the front compartment is right here in front of the main compartment, and it opens up via these dual YKK non-locking zippers about halfway here, so you get like this panel loading style, and inside of there it goes all the way to the bottom, and you have a nice kind of mix of general use pocketing in this big open area. So first thing I'll mention is like when you open this up, like you can get to these kind of pockets fairly easily. So I'll start with what I have up here. There's this kind of stretch elastic pocket out in the upper right hand corner. Inside here I have a Woobin X4 flashlight, which I'll have a full review of coming up soon. I really like that. My AirPod Pros and a Bellroy EDC case. You can fit whatever else you want inside here, but you can't really fit a phone inside here. I found like it's just a little bit too short, even for like a regular size phone. So I think it's for shorter things like a flashlight or AirPods or something like that. Over here you have a little tag that says, Daily Carry Pro, and then you have this with a little bit of independent dimension, non-elastic mesh pocket. Inside of here I have a Nitecore Carbo 10,000. I dropped somewhere the actual charging cable here. I really like this thing, super lightweight. Full review of this coming up soon as well. You can see really easily and access easily into there. And then right underneath there you have this full kind of width pocket here. You kind of see this is like that, and then inside of there I have like a little emergency dot kit, and then I have like a pen and a highlighter, but you can put whatever you want inside of there. The one thing I will say is it's a little bit hard to kind of get at some of the stuff sometimes when the bag is fully packed out and you got stuff up here because like of this panel and where it sort of like folds here. Now inside of the rest of this, looking to the overhead, I have just like a stand-in for my work ID, and I found this bottom place is kind of nice. So I throw some stuff that you sometimes need, but you don't need like immediate access to. It's sort of like a nice big dump area, but you could also fit in this whole area like a shell or a sweater or whatever. It's got really good stuffability just to like in it. This bag deals well with overpacking, so you could fit something like my favorite kind of like casual outdoor use outer shell, outer layer for this kind of shoulder season is like the Arc'teryx Gamma MX jacket, and that fits really well inside of here and super easy to deploy and stash in there. The only kind of like negative things I would say, or things to consider maybe about this, is one, if you have a bunch of stuff in the dump pocket at the top, it flops quite heavily, and it can be a little bit like annoying because like the zipper will snag. You have to kind of like pull this up first and then kind of go like that. But you know, that's just the nature of panel loaders when you have stuff mounted to the top there. And then the second thing is like in the EDC use case, I didn't find this pocket as useful because you've got like just this big area and it's quite you know, voluminous. And then like this pocketing is, you know, it's fine, it's great, it keeps with their general use pocketing philosophy, but it's not as good as like the admin pockets that you would find something like an airbag or something like that, where you have like pen pockets and a phone pocket and a battery bank charger pocket or whatever. But again, that's just sort of keeping with their philosophy. So next, let's talk about the main compartment on the bag. Main compartment is via these dual locking YKK water resistant zippers, and it just opens up fully clamshell like this. Pa-don! And you can see we have this huge main compartment just laying completely open, stands up really nicely for you to be able to like pack your stuff inside of. Let's talk about what I have inside of here, and then I'll talk about kind of like the features of this. I really want to highlight like just how big and capacious this pocket is, or this compartment is, for a personal item sized bag here. So I've got this packed just how I came back from a trip. You see, I had some of like my EDC, whatever stuff in there. And here I have like the majority of my travel stuff here. So I have an Air DOP kit 2 or 3 or whatever the latest one is, an X-Pack. I've got an Air Slim Pouch 2 inside of here with this is all my tech stuff inside of here. I may do a review of this at some point. I really like this. I have here an Air small zipper pouch with like some, you know, random doodads and little bits and bobs. Inside here I have hair actually look good or else it don't matter. I have here a Air zipper large packing cube with all of my clothing and stuff inside of there. Fits really nicely in there. And then I have here a Hyperlight Mountain Gear Dyneema phone pouch, but inside of there I actually have like a little gaming console in there for like those little down hours or whatever. And that's really all I have inside of this main loadout. But that's kept me for a few days and an overnight, not overnight, a few days, few nights trip. There you can see I still could have packed more stuff. Like that was not even fully packed out. And you can see here the main compartment is just this big open space. There's no like air tag pockets or little zipper pockets over, just a big space. Dump your stuff inside of there. It's great. I love it. Walls stand up. The walls are super lightweight, but because of the inherent stiffness of the fabric, stands up for super easy loading. You got that contrast lining inside of there. Really great stuff. And watch how easy it is to load this. Like you just take this, you dump this inside of there, take your thing, dump in there. Like you can fit a lot of stuff in there because even though it's extending out over the zipper line, really easy to get that, you know, get that zipper closed. And oh, I forgot to mention I have a Rico GR4 in just a little elastic fabric wrap in there as like my camera, but you can obviously fit a lot more stuff in here. And you can see, even though this extends out over the zipper line, it's just so easy to zip this bag up and everything just sort of extends out over, I'm sorry, it just kind of easily kind of comes up and it encompasses wherever you have that extends up over the zipper line. I do wish that there were some zipper counter pulls on this sometimes, so you can see like when you're initially trying to get it started, you don't really have anything you get purchased on to be able to open it, but that's a very minor point. The other kind of main thing I would mention inside of this is like in the front panel, you have this big, large compartment in here, very general use pocket inside of here. Got some independent dimension thanks to the patterning. I have some medicine. I've got like a little Bellroy ID card holder with some extra not ID cards, but just extra cards and stuff in there. I've got like a business card holder made out of DCF by Rofmia. I've got a work phone, and then because there's no AirTag pocket, I just have like a little AirTag that I threw inside of there. You can fit a bunch of stuff inside of here. I like that it's, you know, again, quite capacious and general use, but at the same time, I kind of wish that there were another pocket here like you would normally have in an EDC bag. And I found this one just a little bit too big. That's why normally I would keep my wallet inside of this pocket here, in the top pocket of the main compartment. But this one is just a little bit, you know, back to, or it's just a little bit too big, too deep, and a little too hard to kind of get into. That's maybe where the general use philosophy kind of contrasts with like what's practical for EDC. And then, you know, as you can imagine, as I've said before, like because this main compartment is so big, like if you're in an EDC context, it's really hard to like fill that all up. In an EDC use context, what would you normally be carrying inside of here? Maybe you would carry, let's see, like a tech kit here, and maybe, you know, like a camera, and I don't know, let's pretend some other random thing. That's it. But then you've got just this stuff. This is it. This is all you have in an EDC, for many of us, in an EDC context here. And then what do you do with the rest of the space? Now, I will say, though, if you're carrying a lot of chunky stuff in an EDC context, so for example, your gym clothes or shoes, I think is a great way of like filling this thing up and still having a lot of comfortable space for like your tech kit or big over the head earphones, then this actually becomes really nice, I think, as a EDC larger bag. I don't know, larger pro, but like larger bag. But you have to kind of think about the kind of loadouts that you're going to be carrying in this bag. And so for me, I found this is more useful when I'm traveling and doing work, like, you know, a few nights trip. I think of it very much as like a travel bag that flexes into like EDC use at the destination, but it wouldn't be my first choice for like an EDC Pro bag. I'll talk about some of those other options, you know, later on. Let's talk about load carriage very briefly on this bag. Load carriage consists of a side carry handle, a top carry handle, and then all the normal stuff on the back here. Side carry handle is mounted here on the side, so obviously you're gonna get some cant when you pick it up. It's very simple. There's nothing like fancy about it. It's just like a standard folded over, very thin kind of handle, no padding or anything like that. I think it's sufficient because really, and it's the same deal with this top, you know, hanging loop at the top here. So really, you know, I just kind of grab it like this to port it around. There's no handle on this side, no handle on the bottom, but I think that's totally fine for a personal sized item bag as opposed to like one of those big 40-liter size bags there. So really easy to kind of manipulate the bag like this, and it just folds away, kind of tucks away a little bit. It's so small and low profile, or so small and thin that you really, you know, disappears when you're not using it. On the back, you have a full luggage pass-through here behind the padded back panel to drop it on your, you know, luggage canes like this. The bag is fairly square and rectangular, as I mentioned, so it's pretty stable like this. I like that it goes down like this. I know a lot of people prefer it when it's oriented the other way, but I like it this way. And it's just no fuss deployment. There's no Velcro or things to unzip or whatever. It's just out of the way when you don't need it, and it's right there when you do want to use it. So that's great. The back panel has obviously a very has a back frame sheet, but it's kind of like foam. It's not like plastic or anything like that. It relies a lot on your laptop to kind of keep some of that rigidity, which, because you can pack this bag out quite a bit, I was a little bit trepidatious about, but I found actually, as long as I'm carrying a laptop, it actually is quite supportive and relatively comfortable because it's not such a big bag in terms of like, you know, the 40-liter max capacity. But again, you know, you do get some of that, I think, if it's fully packed out. Some of that weight kind of pulls back against it, but it wasn't as bad as I was thinking. It actually was quite comfortable. I think part of that comfort comes from the shoulder straps, which are kind of nicely contoured here, not too aggressive, but not completely straight. They're made out of the same body fabric, the EPX 200. And then on the back here, they've got this nice, like kind of fuzzy air mesh, good sweat absorption. And it's kind of this nice fuzzy feeling, which I was not expecting, but it felt quite nice. It's I wouldn't wear it with a merino wool sweater, but like for most clothing, it's going to be completely fine. On the front of the shoulder straps, you've got these loops in case you want to attach something to them, you know, like a strap pocket or phone holder or something like that. You've got a nice sternum strap, very competent, simply done with a standard rail sliding attachment thing. You can pull them off if you need to. You got a loop at the bottom here as well to help stabilize anything you might attach on here, like a strap pocket or something like that. The sternum strap itself, like I said, is competently done, has a little bit of elastic there for like stretch relief when you're kind of wearing with a heavy load. Simple middle buckling clip. This is the kind of sternum strap I like. Great job, guys. Simple straps to the Woojin buckles. They do technically have little loops here, but you can't really like run your fingers through them to like pull them down, but it's nice. It holds its place. Built-in strap keepers, but in reality, I used to kind of keep them up here because like I found it was not too bad of a dangle experience. And without the loops there, it's just a little bit easier to kind of grab the whole thing and pull it down there. The back panel, same kind of nice padded fuzzy air mesh on here with a little bit of padding. Very slight like center air channel, but in reality, you don't have a ton of like air pass through, which I think is fine actually, because I think there's just a real limit to like how much you could practically have with a bag of this kind of construction, unless you have like really crazy thick bolsters or whatever. For a bag of this size, I thought this was quite comfy. So finally, let's talk about who this is for and who this is not for. Now, I think this bag is for the one bag travelers with well-dialed kits. I just showed you It was like 3 nights, 4 days out of this bag. You could pack out probably another third more and this bag would handle it. Great for one bag travelers. It's also a great Goldilocks bag for all the reasons that I said in the beginning. I won't bore you by repeating, but like, you know, that's exactly how I just use this thing. Obviously a great bag for 2 bag travelers. This is kind of how they position it, like, which is like it's your personal item and you got another item with you, whether that's a roller or luggage or whatever. If I were on a trip where like I needed to carry a roller luggage to carry, like for example, a lot of photography equipment, but I still needed to carry like all of my clothes and stuff, and I don't want to check anything in, which is I almost never check anything in. That's how I would do it. All the equipment and heavy stuff in the roller luggage. So then I have this very capable bag that can carry all my clothes and stuff and all my EDC stuff and be my EDC bag and still handle, like if I were to put my cameras and stuff inside of here. It's not a dedicated camera bag, but it still would capably carry it. This would be a great second item, personal item for that. Now, what I wouldn't say is necessarily for those that are seeking a dedicated EDC bag. I've talked about that throughout this review. Like, it is not a bad one at all, but like Pro Daily Carry or Daily Carry Pro, like there's a lot of really great Pro EDC bags out there or Daily Carry Pro bags out there that I think are a little bit more oriented towards like the urban use, commuter, student, whatever. They're like bags that are aimed at, well, Pro EDC use that can sometimes flex into travel, occasional travel use. This is like the opposite end of the spectrum. It's a really good travel bag for the area that's looking at that can flex into EDC daily carry use. And so when you're doing it in the Goldilocks scenario where you're using it for a few days, but it's not your main bag, that's great. It's amazing. If you're like, this should be my main EDC bag and occasionally I'll take a trip on it, I think there's gonna be some better choices for you out there just because of some of the huge main compartment is hard to use in the daily carry scenario unless you're, again, carrying a bunch of clothes or whatever. And the kind of lack of smaller item, you know, organization inside of there. I also don't think it's the #1 choice if you're looking for like, hey, I actually need to like carry like some really fancy clothing, a suit, or, you know, a dress, or a couple pairs of shoes, or makeup kits and stuff like that. In addition to all my other stuff, you're going to need a bigger, you know, 40 liters is the max carry-on, you know, roughly 45 liters is the max carry-on size you can kind of get in the one bag travel space. And like, you're going to probably be better suited with one of those larger bags than you would with this one, if that's what you're looking for. So that having been said, if you're in the market for a bag like this, what are some other bags that you should consider? This is the Air Travel Pack Small, 28 liters. This one is an X-Pack, but it comes in a variety of materials and sizes and I think colors as well. You can see, look, it's very, very similar. It's a little bit taller. But you got some additional accoutrements like these side compression straps or whatever, but I will tell you, this serves exactly the same kind of, it's not as thick actually. One thing that's interesting is like, it's not as thick, I think, fully packed out as this one can get. This targets exactly the same area as this one, but does so with more internal organization aimed at like your EDC. Like you can see right away, like this is what I'm talking about. Like, you know, the airbags all have this kind of like crazy tons of admin that's really useful for carrying a bunch of like EDC work stuff. I've done a full review of this. I'll link it below. Laptop compartment in the back here with multiple pockets and stuff up at the top organization. I would say a more robust, although not necessarily more comfortable, but like more robust load carry system, luggage pass through, all the things. Interestingly, like I would say I could probably fit slightly more in this one than I can in this one. I feel like the main compartment of this one just deals better with overpacking, but you can still fit roughly, I would say, the same amount of stuff in here. Definitely worth checking this one out. Like I said, I did a review. I'll link it below. This is the Bellroy Transit Work Pack 28 liters. This is a kind of, I did a review of the smaller cousin of this one, the 21, 22 liter that I'll link below here. This is like, well, it's a work pack. It's designed for work, but it's sort of like one of those pro aimed kind of like work packs or whatever, but you can see it's got some clear nods and like affordances for travel inside here, and it definitely is one that starts out, I think, aimed more at like EDC use, but flexes well into travel usage here. You got a lot of like the standard accoutrements you would expect for like a pro use bag, like really robust back panel and padding and all of that. On the back, your really thick, nice shoulder straps. Like, I think that this one holds less than this one, to be honest, but it's an interesting choice if you're looking for, you know, like an EDC bag first that can flex into some light travel. I previously called the Evergood Civic Travel Bag 26 my GOAT, greatest of all time Goldilocks bag, one bag travel If I had to choose one bag for the rest of my life, it might probably be this one. And I still think, honestly, that's true. Really great Goldilocks bag, one bag travel, flexes very comfortably EDC. I would rock this easily as an EDC bag. It's definitely worth checking this one out. The only thing I'll caution is sometimes people don't like how the Evergood bags like back panel and load carriage system works, but I definitely like it. And really, that's it. If you have any questions about this bag, go and leave those in the comments below. If I can, I will answer them. And if you have any bags or other items you'd like me to review, leave those in the comments below. And if I can, I will review them. Thank you very much.